Alright, so now we're going to assemble our trigger components. First thing we need to do is drop our trigger in. There we go. Next thing we need to do is drop our disconnector in. And disconnector, remember, pad, the flat pad is going to face forward, and the round part is going to go up towards the top through the hole in the top of the frame. Okay, so, oh, come on. There we go. Okay. Got that. Steer nose up. Okay, so it's kind of smiling at you. Steer nose facing up, straddles the disconnector. Well, that was not a very good job. There we go. Okay. So what I like to do is just use a punch as a slave pin to kind of get everything lined up. You're going to have to fiddle with it a bit. Unless you're just that guy that can get all these things lined up first try. I am certainly not that guy. As you're about to see. Find a way all the way through. Alright, everything's captured in there. Okay, sear pin, just come back through, push the slave pin out, and we're in. Next comes the hammer. Hammer pin in, like so. Oop. Okay. Mainspring housing. Slide right in. Now, if you don't have one of these little tools, okay, or punches specifically for the mainspring housing, just use the actual punch from your kit. I made this little tool myself. You can buy it from like Brownells and stuff too. Nifty little punch. Now, don't do what I just did. And assemble it without the leaf spring. I was wondering why that didn't feel right. I gotta go do this on camera and I completely forget what in the world I'm doing. Okay. Alright, so everything is flipped up out of the way when you install your leaf spring. The top spring with the bent forward finger. Okay, when you look at it, it's just going to kind of be evident where that bad boy goes. Okay, if everything is lined up in there correctly, everything will just kind of go where it's supposed to. Alright, so that goes in there. Mainspring housing slides over, strut comes down. Now when you close this up, make sure the hammer is all the way forward. Make sure your hammer strut's actually in the middle instead of getting caught on the side. It should have just a weensy bit of resistance right at the end. And there we go. Okay, so now all our trigger components are in there, and now we get to start seeing how they function, or if they're going to function, if there's major adjusting we need to do. And it is a very crisp trigger. It's just a little bit heavier than I want. But it is very crisp. Yeah, that is probably breaking about 5.5 pounds. And most of that is probably due to the leaf spring. Because we're already down to 19 pounds on the hammer spring. Let me see if I can show you guys how this is breaking. Okay, so we've got that amount of pre-travel. Remember, I've done nothing to the hammer or sear, nothing. Okay, and so it's probably breaking about 5.5 pounds. and that's where it lets off. Of course, it's really hard for you guys to visualize how crisp a trigger feels by watching it. There's no drag. That's very nice. But again, like I said before, you know, if you want, you know, if you start with great components, the end result you're going to have is going to be fantastic. Okay. Now we can make it better. We're going to make this trigger feel better to me by doing some of the things I talked about earlier. I'll talk about that as I take this apart. Okay. So some of the things we're going to do to take away some of the friction, which induces extra weight in how the trigger feels. We'll polish all the contact surfaces right there on the spring. And then we'll take our punches out. Okay, I'm not going to do anything to this hammer. Okay, I'm not going to touch these three parts. And there we go. Okay, I knew it was going to show. That's why I didn't polish this ahead of time, because I wanted to show you guys. Alright. So you guys can see the two marks right there. Okay, those are rub marks from the disconnector. And where it engages. Okay, just like that. Now what I'm going to do to the pad, if I said I wasn't going to touch the disconnector just now, okay, that was a bad word choice. Okay, I am going to polish the back, this pad right here, and we're going to polish this whole, the whole trigger bow. Okay, we're the whole outside, and that's so that we reduce friction as it travels along the track inside the frame, and that is going to reduce friction between these two components right here as they work back and forth. As you see, because of the rough surface on here, we already see the wear points, and not that that's going to cause the gun to not work. It's going to cause the gun to not work as I want it to. Okay, so all we're doing is just amplifying the performance potential of the handgun. Okay, and then to take out most, I'm not going to take out all the pre-travel, but to take out most of the pre-travel, let's see, am I just going to do that right now? We have these two tabs. Okay, these two tabs are what control pre-travel, and what it does to control pre-travel is limits how far forward the trigger can travel inside the frame. In infinity triggers don't have two tabs, they only have one. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of bend one forward just by pushing on it with a man, that thing's pretty stiff. I may actually put this in the vise, and you can't see a darn thing I'm doing anyways. Okay, well, I'll do this later, okay, but just by bending this forward. Now what you got to do when you're tuning this is make sure that you are not preventing the trigger from going forward far enough in order to reset the disconnector. Okay, the trigger has to allow the disconnector to reset. Okay, and there's a trick you can do if it's bent too far forward. Let me see if I can do it with this punch. Get this thing just bent forward. Man, that thing doesn't want to go. I'm gonna step off camera here, and I'm gonna bend that thing forward. All right, so I apologize for stepping out of frame there. All I did was put this in the bench vise and like that, put a punch on it, and I just tapped this tab down. Okay, so now as you see, this is going to prevent the trigger from moving as far forward. So we'll put it back in the gun, and we'll see if it is adjusted. If I put this tab too far forward, I'll show you a little trick how to set it perfectly, or at least really close in the gun while it's in the gun. All right. Okay. All right. So we're back, and we got it in here. And yeah, I can already tell. I can tell just by looking through the hole for the magazine release, because I can see the other tab. Right, I can see the screw actually. Let's back that up. But yeah, I can just kind of tell it's going to be too far. Okay. So what you can do, all right, if you're in a situation where you've adjusted the pre-travel tabs too far, and you want to get it, if you're looking for like the no pre-travel or the absolute minimum pre-travel setting for your trigger, what you're going to do is, if you can reach it, if you got small enough fingers to reach down in there right behind the back of the trigger bow, if you can reach down to the frame and get a finger right there, do that. You can normally get it with a 2011. With a single stack, it's kind of hard, unless you got some really strong, really skinny fingers to get down in there. Or what you're going to do is, right on the back of the trigger bow, you're just going to push that thing forward, okay, until you bend that tab backwards, and you would have everything inserted in here. Have it all put together with the trigger, looking at the top of the disconnector in the hole right there. And as you push it forward, as you rebend that tab, you'll get to the point where, boom, it pops back up, okay? At that point, you know the trigger has gone forward enough to reset, or to allow the disconnector to reset, and then just take it back apart and just go a hair further, okay? Because this thing is springing, so it probably sprung a little bit, probably sprung back, and just tap it back just a hair, and there you're gonna have minimal pre-travel, right? But I already know that with it adjusted like this, that I could see this, not pre-travel, but over-travel. Oh my gosh, that was tight. This over-travel adjustment screw. And I think, why are you so tight? Why are you so tight coming out? I wonder if the set screw was in there when they media blasted this thing, and there's media blasting dust in there. Okay. So that's kind of it, okay, for this trigger. We're going to come back later. I got to get set up for some other stuff right now. But we're going to come back later and we'll polish all this stuff. We'll get a trigger gauge out, and we'll kind of show before and after of just what polishing up some stuff can do. We'll measure as we bend the springs back and get the trigger exactly where we want. When we come back to this, just how much little tweaks here and there will do to affect how the trigger performs, okay? So there we go. We explained how a trigger functions, what's important on a trigger, why certain trigger components are better than others, and why it's not okay to pay $5 for a trigger for a sear, and why it's better to pay $35 for a sear, or well north of $100 for a full ignition kit. Okay. Great parts yield great guns. Mediocre parts yield mediocre guns that look good. Okay, so here we go. Until next time, and we really dive into tuning a trigger. Keep doing what you guys are doing, and as always, guys, thanks for supporting the channel. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you got a comment, again, if you want me to go back and dive into something in particular, let me know down in the comments or shoot me a message. And we'll backtrack and re-dive into something, okay? So there you go. Keep on building, guys. Reload. Let freedom ring.